this. I thought about Samson because, when Samson was coming up, he was surrounded by Philistines. Israel had befriended the Philistine nation, his tribe. And because of that, what was supposed to be a monumental walk for Samson was led by many snags and snares. It led him into many snags and snares. He got caught up in all kind of stuff because his path was riddled with influences that never should have been influences in his life. And because Samson was a young man in the dating game amongst enemies, he's dating the enemies, the women of the enemies of the nation. They're frenemies. Let's just say they're frenemies. They're cool sometimes, but if you give them the opportunity, they'll get you. They'll get you. And you can't be mad at them because they never misrepresent themselves. They always show who they are to you. You know what they are. You know what they're about, but you choose to hang out with them, thinking that your reputation will be strong enough amongst them to be able to keep them at bay. And it does for an extended amount of time, but that 1% or that half of a percentile is bound to happen. And so it was for Samson. Samson dated only Philistine women because it was status quo amongst Israel. You were a nobody if you didn't have a Philistine woman. You didn't date the women of your community. You didn't date the Danite women. You didn't date the women of Judah. You dated the Philistine. And even though there's nothing wrong with Philistine women per se, if you were a child of the house of Israel, it was against the commandment of God. You were out of alignment. So it was a big deal, but Samson's tribe were renowned for breaking these kind of rules. So it was just who they were. But because Samson had such a monumental calling on his life, he stood out like a sore thumb amongst these people. He was a warrior and a judge. You didn't want to see Samson coming, friend. You didn't want to start him up. Samson was that cousin, that family member, that homie in the neighborhood that don't play with him. He's cool. He's fun. You're going to see him at the parties. He likes the girls. But when it comes to man stuff, you don't want to play with him. He's not going to bother you. He's not going to overstep your boundaries. He's going to be respectful. He's going to stay in his lane. He's going to do his thing. But if you try him, he's not going to let it go. Y'all know this type I'm talking about. Every neighborhood across America has a Samson. Even the burbs has a Samson, friend. And his enemies would know his weakness. His weakness were women. Samson wanted to be loved, y'all. And because Samson grew up in an environment where he constantly dated women outside of the law of God, and because he had such a significant calling on his life, he had a calling on his life like none other of the house of Israel. He was a Nazirite from the womb. So all that he did was under a microscope. He was a powerful man, but he didn't look it. This is why people would try him. They would hear all of this stuff about him and they couldn't believe it because he's small. He's skinny. He's not a big buff guy. He's not no muscle-bound, weightlifting kind of guy. Samson was a small man, but he was mighty. He had a lot of heart, friend. You didn't want to fool with him. Once you get him started, you read it in the Bible. It's so thorough as to what he was about that it's comical. He would do all kinds of things because he could. Because he knew that you gave him a reason. And now he's going to take it to the fullest. This was Samson. You looked at him as if he was weak, so that means that you have the spirit of trying to attack the weak. You're the type of guy or the kind of girl that goes after the weak and the elderly. You attack the women and the children. And that type of spirit, Samson would easily be able to lock in on and say, okay, they're doing this to me because they think I'm weak. They're the type of people that attack the weak. Now you've given me a pass. And Samson just was not the person you would want to give a pass to because he was not weak. He was mightier than the mightiest men. There was none mightier than Samson. He had courage. He had heart. He had character. But his only problem was that he loved the women of the enemy's tribe, the Philistine. He loved the Philistine women. And because he grew up in this, he knew nothing but that. He could never find safety with the Philistine women. He's always going from one to the next. And in between the major women that he actually claimed, he would date prostitutes. Hoes. He loved the party girls. He's never been able to establish a loving, nurturing relationship with a woman. And in the meantime, he's a mighty man of valor, a notable warrior, an opponent that you don't want to have. And so his brethren, frenemies, they attack him through the women. He trusts the woman he marries. He trusts her. Yet he soon finds out that he can never trust the women that he's come to love because there's no loyalty with them and he. They are Philistine. He is Israelite. And in the Philistine camp, the Philistine men were so wicked that they would harm the woman just to get to Samson. And this is what they threatened the wife with. They threatened harm to her and her family if she doesn't give them information on Samson. She gives it. And long story short, Samson ends up losing a bet. He's angry. He knows that they've gotten the information from his newlywed wife, and they've ruined his marriage. He cannot trust his wife anymore. He feels ostracized. He leaves. He attacks. He moves out of emotion, and he attacks. And he does a bunch of noteworthy but highly petty activity that is extremely effective. And it begins this tirade And long story short, Samson ends up moving from one woman to the next. He can't land his plane. He's hovering and he's looking for a landing strip in his plane. He's running low on gas. And he's tired of flying. He wants to land. He wants to put it in park and sit down and be loved on and nurtured by somebody he can trust. Because you can only sleep with only so many holes as you can. It's not, your life can't be full of that. It's not anything fulfilling in that. You will need attachment. But because Samson is young, and because he's focusing his attention on women outside of the law of God, and he has a monumental calling on his life, he's a Nazirite from the womb. That means from the time the egg connected with the sperm, he was a Nazirite, which nobody else was. He's the only one of his kind. So what worked for other people in them being able to stand outside of the commandment of God will not work for Samson. None of Samson's relationships will work. He doesn't understand. Well, he understands why, but he doesn't, because he sees his brethren it all working with them. But why is it not working with me? And he never changes his way of thinking as to the type of people he picks. It's either Philistine women, righteous women, or Philistine hoes.